Hi, I'm Adam Oren. I'm a developer advocate based here in New York for the AdWords API. And as Aaron said, going to talk about enhanced campaigns. So look like everybody has heard of enhanced campaigns before, which is good. So we're going to dive into some detail. Hopefully it's not too much like drinking from a fire hose, but I'm going to try to at least give you a good survey of all the features that are available and how to use them with the API. Okay, so what are enhanced campaigns? Enhanced campaigns are one of the biggest upgrades to AdWords since AdWords was conceived. And it's meant to get AdWords and the complexity of campaign management out of the way and allow you to focus on the user and their context. So to give an example of the problem, right now, and Aaron kind of alluded to this in the introduction, if you wanted to have a campaign, an advertising campaign that focused on 50 different locations, 2 different times, and 2 different devices, say mobile and laptop. In theory, this could, in the current way AdWords works with legacy campaigns, you could need 200 campaigns for this, for all the different permutations of these things and the different bids that you'd want to set in each campaign. The idea is to get this down to one campaign and be able to control all 3 of these dimensions from within a single campaign. So enhanced campaigns offer you powerful tools for the multi-device world. So you can modify your bidding behavior based on what device that your user is on. So if you can bid 20% higher if a user's on their mobile for campaigns that target physical stores, or the same thing, user context doesn't necessarily have to be tied to the device. Smarter ads for varying user contexts can mean if they're on their mobile, show a different type of creative. Don't necessarily need to adjust the bid by a certain amount. This can all be done within a single campaign without having to break it up into crazy amount of complexity. So how does the API support enhanced campaigns specifically? API offers support for creating and updating enhanced campaigns, for bidding with the new bid adjustments, setting mobile preferred ads, and the new type of ad extensions with ad extension fee and services. I'm going to go into each one of these features and how you work with them. The most straightforward one and easiest to get your head around is how do you create and update legacy campaigns to existing campaigns. On the campaign SOAP object from the campaign service, we now have a field called enhanced, and it's a Boolean field, and it can be set to true. And that's the only thing it can be set to. It can have the value false, and that could be a read-only field value, but it's only settable as true, which means if you have a legacy campaign, it will come across as enhanced equals false. You set it to true, you've essentially upgraded it to an enhanced campaign. That's all there is to it. Once you do that, it's a one-way operation. There's no going back. You cannot undo migrating to an enhanced campaign. Now, the most immediate consequence of setting an enhanced campaign to true is how it changes the device targeting for the campaign. You can no longer add different platforms and carriers via the campaign criterion service. That method of device targeting has gone away. So any existing code that tries to do that with an upgraded enhanced campaign will throw an error. So you need to be aware of that. The only exception to this is if your campaign is targeting the Google Display Network, GDN, and only GDN. If that's the only network that you're targeting, then it will allow you to set the campaign platforms and carriers like before. But everything else with enhanced campaigns has to be done the new way. So what is the new way? The new way, instead of having different devices and platforms, you have one base bid across that applies to the entire campaign, and that base bid is aligned with device types of tablet and desktop. That's important to know that with enhanced campaigns, device types of tablet and desktop have been consolidated into one. The marketing term is aligned. So you can only target them as a single device type, and when you want to do something like target a device, you can provide a bid modifier, which is essentially a multiplier that gets applied to the base bid. So you can say, I want to bid 10% higher if a user is on mobile versus the base bid, which is just for desktop. And we have bid adjustments for 3 dimensions, not just device. That same logic with bid adjustments applies to location and to time. So, for instance, if you can say I want 10% higher if someone's on a mobile device, 20% higher if they're in Palo Alto, and you know what? I also want to give it a 5% bump if it's between 7 and 8 p.m. And this will result in your base bid being 1.39 times higher than what it's configured as the API at auction time. Now, you may notice that 1.39% is, or 1.39 times is not 10 plus 20 plus 5%. The bid modifiers get multiplied. So you can think of it as bid multipliers, really. So it's a 10% increase of a 20% increase of a 5% increase. So how these, like a 10% increase in device type would be a 1.1 value for a bid multiplier. So you take your default bid, multiply it by 1.1, and that would be adjusting it by 10%. So all 3 of those bid modifiers, be it for location, time, device, get multiplied together, and that final number, like 1.39 in this case, gets multiplied by your base bid, and that's what your final bid is. So how do you set these bid modifiers? You set them as a field, and they are on criterion objects that you set with the campaign criterion service on platform, location, or ad schedule. So, for instance, setting time bid adjustments. Start with that. This one, actually, interestingly enough, is not new. We've had support for time bid adjustments via ad schedules since v2012-06 of the API. But it's a little bit, it's worth going over now because the way they fit into the rest of the bidding framework and how important they are has changed dramatically. So as you can see on the SOAP object, there's a bid modifier field. You set this via an ad schedule object on the campaign criterion service. You associate an ad schedule with the criterion, which is essentially an interval, a start and end time from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. On a certain day. And you define what the bid modifier is for that period of time. Once you do that, the bid modifier is set. This is in the time zone of the account. You can only set 6 different ad intervals for a given day. That's one of the limitations we have on time bid adjustments that you need to keep in mind. Anywho, yeah, you can only set 6 different ones in a single day. Moving on to the mobile bid adjustment. This is also set via the campaign criterion service, but this time the criterion is a platform instead of an ad schedule. You can set the platform for mobile by setting it to a platform with a criterion ID of 30001. That's the magic value for high-end mobile in the API. That's the same as it's always been if you've used platform targets before. So what this does is, in this particular case, if you were to set, like on the slide, the bid modifier of 0.8, that corresponds to essentially a reduction of 20%. That's another illustration of how the bid modifier corresponds to the bid adjustment. Especially when you get into negative numbers, negative bid adjustments, it's a little weird because 0.8 and minus 20% may not completely be obvious at first how they correspond if you're looking at them just out of the blue. Now, what is new? This one is legitimately new. This is not like the ad schedule one that's been around for a while. If you try to set the bid modifier and platform of high-end mobile together, or any other type of platform with a bid modifier, the API will throw a criterion error. Cannot bid modify criterion type. So this only works on enhanced campaigns. So when you go about setting these, especially when you're migrating legacy campaigns, how do you know? Is there any type of guidance provided by Google on what this should be? Since this is kind of a new world and a new way of doing things, the answer is yes. Google provides you with a suggested mobile bid adjustment in a key in the forward compatibility map that Aaron mentioned earlier, called campaign.suggested mobile bid adjustment. So I noticed only a few of you raised your hands when you talked about forward compatibility map. So this is an excellent time to talk about what exactly is a forward compatibility map. It's actually fairly straightforward. It's just a map of key value string pairs on certain top-level objects in the SOAP API. There's a field forward compatibility map that is on campaign and add group add objects, and I think a couple of others, but these are the ones that are pertinent for enhanced campaigns. This field forward compatibility map was added to the WUSTL a few versions ago, so it allows us to add new fields and things to the API without having to change the WUSTL. So, for instance, in addition to suggested mobile bid adjustment, we have campaign.enhanced and add.devicepreferred. So campaign.enhanced is actually only available in 2012-09. With v 2013-02, like we just saw on the previous slide, this field is actually on the top-level SOAP object. So for previous versions, you can still set that field by specifying it with that key and a value of either true or false in the forward compatibility map. That allowed us to, on February 5th, when we released enhanced campaigns, actually make them available to all existing versions of the API, even without a WUSTL change, even though this support wasn't there before. Another key reason why forward compatibility maps are important is in the case of the suggested mobile bid adjustment. This is something that is a transient value. It's important and useful now to guide you in upgrading from your legacy campaigns to enhanced campaigns, but once that is complete, there's really no point for the suggested mobile bid adjustment. And if we didn't have these things, we'd just have to add it to the WUSTL so you can use it for a version or two and then remove it. This kind of lets us put transient values and backward compatibility or forward compatibility values into different versions of the API. I touched on this before, the difference between the bid modifier value and the bid adjustment. In the SOAP object, for instance, you could set a bid modifier of 1.2. That would correspond to what you see in the UI as a bid adjustment of 20%, and 0.8 is to negative 20%. And some special values, if you want to set it to negative 100%, you can do that, which corresponds to a value of 0. So you'd multiply the default bid by 0 to have no bid, which is in effect minus 100%. That, for the mobile device bid modifier, essentially allows you to do desktop tablet only campaigns and not bid at all on mobile. The normal values supported by the bid modifier for mobile in particular are between negative 90% and positive 300%. That will correspond to 0.1 or 4 in the bid adjustment value. And there's a special value of negative 1, which effectively clears the bid modifier's value, which is essentially the same as setting it to 1. It doesn't modify the bid adjustment at all. You get the same bid for mobile as the base bid that's configured for tablets and desktop. Okay, the other thing is the location bid adjustment. That's the third dimension. Unfortunately, modifying the bid modifier value for locations isn't supported in the API yet, but definitely want to talk about it because it's the third major dimension of enhanced campaigns, and also because it is supported in the UI. So if you have platforms or applications where your users can log into the UI with their credentials, as well as modify it with your application, there's a possibility that for an enhanced campaign, they can go in and set a bid adjustment. So you have to be aware that they could be set kind of out of band with the API. Okay, so that's how you manipulate the 3 different dimensions of bidding modifiers. The other thing that enhanced campaigns provide support for is something Aaron mentioned earlier, is marking ads as mobile preferred. This is another way to target things specifically to mobile within one campaign without having to have different ad copy and different ad groups of different campaigns with different targeting criteria. You can apply this type of this field text, the device preferred on any type of ad, not just text ad. It's a field that can be set, and the only value allowed right now is that for high-end mobile. This is the same identifier 30001 that's identifies high-end mobile in the criterion for the platform targeting. You could set that as a field on the ad object. This is accepted on text ads, image ads, dynamic search ads, template ads, rich media ads, and third-party redirect ads. So In addition to these changes, we've made some tweaks to reporting to be able to report on these different features a little bit better. The campaign performance report, we've added the enhanced field, so you can actually differentiate and segment between enhanced and legacy campaigns in that report. We've added the device preference value, 30001, into the ad performance report, so you can actually see the different performance of your ads based on whether they're mobile preferred or not. And in the click performance report, we've also added the device type column that shows high-end tablet, mobile, or high-end mobile, tablet, or desktop. Okay, so here's the upgrading existing systems part, which is probably the most work involved with upgrading to enhanced campaigns, is taking your legacy stuff and trying to convert it over to this new way of doing things. There are two major steps in upgrading. There's upgrading your platform and your code to support enhanced campaigns and all their features, and then going through, once you have that support, and actually upgrading any legacy campaigns you have to be enhanced campaigns. The major things to be aware of when you're upgrading a platform. You need to obviously support enhanced campaign creation. This is very easy with v2013.02 because that's the only thing they create. So just upgrading to v2013.02, you've got that covered. Another thing is device targeting, like I mentioned earlier. That is another source where your actual existing code will break if it tries to manipulate enhanced campaigns. The campaign criterion service for enhanced campaigns does not accept add and remove operations for those platform criterion anymore. That will throw an error. So the way that you set, like I was showing before in the campaign criterion service, the bid modifier for the platform is actually via a set operation. So you assume that criterion is already there on the SOAP object that you're manipulating, and you're just setting the bid modifier value. So adding and removing, which is what you did with legacy campaigns, you kind of added the different devices and carriers. That doesn't work on enhanced campaigns anymore. And lastly, supporting the bid modifier and the mobile preferred ads. Once you have that, you're pretty much good to go for your code changes, and that leaves upgrading your legacy campaigns. There's two scenarios here. You have a simple upgrade and a merge upgrade. Simple upgrade is, as the name implies, it's relatively simple, and it's pretty straightforward. You set the campaign to enhanced. You set a bid modifier value if you want, and then you add any mobile preferred ads to that campaign. That's pretty much all you need to do to upgrade a campaign that is either a hybrid that currently targets desktop and mobile in the same campaign, or just desktop. If that's the case, you can safely kind of follow this three-step, not 1-1-1, but 1-2-3, to upgrade it. Mobile-only campaigns are also fairly straightforward. The only difference is step 2 is to set the default bid for desktop and tablet. Okay, the merge scenario. This is the most complicated thing that you're going to have to handle with enhanced campaigns, and luckily it doesn't apply to everybody. And unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all solution here. There isn't a magic bullet, or a magic call you can make, or a magic function that you can write that will upgrade it. It's really account-specific, campaign-specific, very business logic-specific, but here's the general idea of how this should go and the types of decisions you need to make. Okay, this entire process is outlined in about a 30-page document called the Enhanced Campaigns Upgrade Guide. It's a UI-centric document, but the business logic and the workflow is the same, and you can kind of map all the different concepts as they talk about to stuff I mentioned in the talk here, and how to accomplish all the certain tasks. So that would be a really important guide to go through and figure out what your merge scenario needs to be, if at all. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. I want to step back just real quick and give you a timeline of what's happened and what's going to happen, just so you can get your head around when everything is going to fall into place. So we launched Enhanced Campaigns on February 6th, and at that time, v2012.09 and 2012.06 were around, and that was launched with the forward compatibility map support. So you can use it that way when we first launched it. March 4th, we released version v2013.02 that introduced native enhanced campaign support with the SOAP object fields that we're talking about today and the way of doing things today. As Aaron mentioned, March 25th, that's when V2012-06 is going to be sunset, and that's going to leave us with V2012-09 using forward compatibility maps and V2013-02 as far as enhanced campaigns are concerned. July 1st is the sunset for V2012-09. That's when you have to have your migration complete to enhanced campaigns and be ready for kind of the enhanced campaign only world, because from then on, they're really not going to be enhanced campaigns anymore. They're just campaigns. That's the way it's going to be. Another thing to point out is sometime, it will probably coincide with the July 1st sunset. I'm not entirely positive, but somewhere around that same time, there will be an auto upgrade process for any legacy campaigns that are still in existence in your accounts will be automatically upgraded to enhanced campaigns. So if you want to control that upgrade flow via simple upgrade process, the 3 steps, or if you have like a merge scenario going on, you need to get it, you have between now and then to get it done before AdWords is going to say, okay, it's time for enhanced campaigns, everybody in, and switch everybody over. So that's something to be aware of and stay on top of.